Welcome to the Feria TechCast. Here we bring you all things science, engineering, technology, and innovation. Today we are joined by Dianna Deeney, a product development expert with over 25 years of experience. She specializes in a critical but often messy phase of creation, helping engineering teams transform early stage ideas into clear, user-focused designs. She is the founder of Quality During Design and the creator of the ADEPT Team Framework, a practical system designed to cut through the confusion of concept development. Her mission is to help teams build better products with less rework by fostering better collaboration from the very start. In this episode, we'll dive into how to lead clearer, more effective design conversations. So, Diana, welcome to the show. I am excited to have you here.
Thank you for inviting me onto your show.
All right, so quickly, let's dive in. With over 25 years of experience from the plant floor to leading design teams, so what was the pivotal moment that made you realize the traditional way of running product development meetings was fundamentally broken, leading you to create what you call the ADEPT framework?
I kept seeing product development teams scrambling in the front end with a new project, or they would get to later stages of the project and there would just be a lot of headaches that I felt could have been resolved earlier.
Hmm.
I had worked on the production floor in manufacturing, and I had a chance to work on an implantable heart pump project. And that's where I got introduced to quality and reliability. So I had a lot of good mentors, and it was just a field that I wanted to study more and go more into depth with. And so that was my career pivot from process manufacturing. So there I learned a lot about quality and reliability. And then I transitioned to being the quality engineer on product development teams. And that's where I started to introduce a lot of the back end quality tools into product development meetings, structures, and conversations. So throughout my years, I noticed that, a project would get approved and everybody would be excited about it. There was a market needs analysis was done, technical feasibility study, and everybody approved it. It's ready to go. And then a whole new team was assigned to be able to work on this new product development project. And then everybody just kind of breaks away into their own silos, into their own corners, and they let the engineers go design something. And then the engineers come back and say, ta-da, look what I built. And everybody else on the team, marketing, sales, the field people, the potential customers, they look at it and they go, what is this? Or this isn't quite what we asked for. This isn't exactly what we wanted. So there was a miscommunication there. And I call that the fuzzy front end of product development between where you have an idea and where the engineers design something. And it's also a shame because now the engineers have introduced something and now we've kind of cut off innovative ideas that maybe marketing, sales, or other people would have had toward this product. So that's what I call the design fog. It's that fuzzy front end where people don't know what to talk about and they don't know how to work together. And that's why I came up with the ADEPT Team Framework and also the concept space model, which are two tools that you can use together. They're quality tool styles, and they're used for people to be able to have those conversations toward something meaningful for the engineers to use. They need to be able to develop something from something.
Fantastic. So let's talk about what you call the design fog. So, for the engineers and developers in our audience, what does that fog actually consist of? Is it unclear requirements, misaligned teams, or something entirely different? I'd like to hear your thoughts on this.
So for engineers, we're trained to think a certain way, and our initial reaction is to jump ahead and solve the problem, start working out how we're going to do this, how we're going to do things. And that's just the way that we are. We're trained as engineers to do that. Whereas we need to get more comfortable staying in the design fog a little bit longer. So instead of jumping to solutions, we need to still look at it as an undefined problem space. We know
Mm,
our product is going to solve a problem, but we don't know exactly how it's going to solve the problem yet. So let's get together with our greater team, our cross functional team, and talk about what are the targeted benefits we want our customers to have. If things go wrong, what are some of the symptoms our customers could experience? And that gets us into risk based design, where we can design out problems. And then, even though it is a high level concept, our users are still going to be doing something with our product. They have a problem, they're reaching for a product to be able to use it to solve their problem. So they're going to be interacting with our product. And even at a high level, there's certain process steps they're going to take with it in order to finish what it is, finish their goal, achieve their goal, get the intended output from it. So we can evaluate that use process for usability, mistake proofing, and those kind of things. So by identifying the benefits, the symptoms, and the use process in this fuzzy front end, we're talking about it with our team. We're getting clear idea of our customers, where they are, their limitations, their use environment, how it aligns with the rest of the business decisions and products, and how we can best serve our customers. And from that, we can generate those design requirements and the design inputs before we start actually engineering stuff.
all right, that was really insightful, Diana. So you are an author and you recently had a book published. So can you give us like an overview of your recently published book? Tell us what it's about, who should read the book, what should someone who wants to read your book expect to gain from it, what value does it give, and what was your motivation to write that book?
And the book is called Pierce the Design Fog,
Hmm.
Develop High Quality Products Faster Through Team Innovation. And there are 3 phases to it, 3 sections. One is an introductory section about the thought process, how we want to approach this process with our team, the kind of thought processes we want to have, how we invite people to a co-working session and how to make it work. The second part is step-by-step guidance on how to run and facilitate meetings with our team in order to get design inputs. And then the third part of it is, once we have that output, what do we do with it? How do we actually translate what it is we've learned from our team into design inputs, into those requirements and other things we need for design? And I wrote it with engineers in mind, engineering leaders and engineers who work in product development. It can also be used by product managers or project leaders, or even if the marketing manager really wants to work better with the engineers on the team, this would be an excellent way to do it. So anyone that's on a product development team that needs to work with engineers and not hand off information, but actually communicate and work through information with the engineers, this book will help them. And I wrote it as a book because there were a lot of techniques that I tried in my own work that worked out well. And I would present it at conferences, and people would have questions about it or ask, is there a case study for that? And what I found is that they were really looking for a way for them to adopt it into their own workflow and processes. And so I just came to the conclusion that what we really needed was just a book.
Great, that was a really interesting journey. So can you like walk us through a key part of the ADEPT Team Framework? So how does it provide a structure that transforms a chaotic operation-driven brainstorming season or session into a productive and aligned collaboration?
Well, ADEPT is an acronym that I use for a lot of my working sessions. I developed it for myself, and it works well in this application too. A is for align, where we want to first get alignment with everybody on what are we working toward? What do we want to have in the end? Sometimes we skip this.
Hmm.
And this is also different than a typical status update meeting, right? Where you have an agenda and everybody's, working from the same agenda. This is different. You want to align with the team on both what it is you want to talk about and then also looking forward in the meeting, how you're going to prioritize decisions coming out of the meeting. That could be a rating scale, it could be a method for prioritizing or picking the best idea, but everybody should be on the same page with those two things, the goal and how you're going to work together and prioritize things. So that's A, align. D is for discover, E is examine, and P is prioritize. And they're different activities in discover. For concept development, I recommend brain writing. So this is where you're gathering ideas from the team on Post-it notes. You're
Mm,
constraining the time, the idea because it's on a Post-it note, and everybody's sharing their ideas at once and putting it on a shared space. So now it transitions from this is my idea to this is now our idea. Examine is examining everything that people came up with, the ideas, and we're not judging, nobody's presenting. We might do an affinity diagram, which is where you're sorting ideas into different groups, but everybody's coming to the same understanding of the ideas that are presented or that people came up with. And then finally, prioritize is you're prioritizing on either how much of a benefit is this going to give our customers? What is the idea that we want to take to the next step? What is the riskiest thing that we could be experiencing here? It depends on the focus of what it is that you're working toward with your team. And then finally, teamwork is just remembering to follow up with the team, involve them in what happened, what was the result of the meeting, but then also let them know how their work with you developed into a design decision. Sometimes there's things that come out of meetings that we don't want to use, or maybe we can't use it. So again, it's following up with the rest of our team to say, we consider this idea, but it's not going to work for this reason. It's just closing the loop. So that is the ADEPT Team Framework that I use to both plan meetings, and then when I'm in meetings, just making sure things keep on track and that we're having a productive meeting with the group.
fantastic. That sounds like a really practical framework. So, moving forward, Diana, for the team leads and engineering managers that will be listening, what is one simple change that they can make to their next concept meeting that would immediately reduce confusion and misalignment?
The biggest thing to do is just to recognize that in that early phase of concept development, there are a lot of assumptions happening. Marketing has an assumption that engineers understand the problem in the same way. Sales and marketing aren't always aligned. And then also you have field technicians that have a more intimate relationship with the customer that know things, but maybe don't know how to share them or when to share them. To avoid those assumptions, we just need to stop and make time to be able to have these working meetings, not status updates and not reports that we're sharing. Those are good, but to actually have working meetings where people are working through ideas together. And it doesn't have to be a big chunk of time. There is a statistic from Robert Cooper who studies product development, and it's like 16% of project time, only 16% is spent on this early phase, this fact-based seeking teamwork, where we're defining the project in a sharp fact-based way. Only 16% of our project time is spent on that, but yet if it's done well, our projects are 3.5 times more successful. And the products that do this well have 38 more market shares than other products that don't. So it's huge. It has a huge impact on the success of your product at the end. And we're not spending enough time there. And it doesn't have to be weeks and weeks and weeks. It can be 1 week. As long as it's intentional with purpose, you would be able to really drive a lot of the product and design the product with the rest of the team. It'll save a lot of headaches later and be more successful.
All right. So your quality during design philosophy is key. So the word quality in your quality during design philosophy, how are you redefining quality from being a final checkpoint to an integral part of the creative process from day one?
Yeah, it's funny. You ask people about quality, like, what do you think of when you hear quality or a person that in quality? And they frequently talk about the person being at the end of a production line in a white
Yeah.
coat with a clipboard and a pen, checkbox. Or they're also associated with continuous improvement
Mm,
activities where, we have something and now we need to make it better. It's a matter of these quality tools have been around for about 100 years or so. And many
mm.
teams have used it to be able to work together to create something new, whether it's continuous improvement or finding a root cause. And it's a matter of taking those ideas about quality and moving them up front toward those early phases of product development. So, the same way a team could use a fishbone diagram to visualize and organize their thoughts about the root cause of a problem, the concept space model and the ADEPT Team Framework can be used in concept development to help with product design. It's not, they're sisters, I guess you could say. They're templates. They both use templates. They both use teamwork, and they both use methods of co working with others that have been successful for a lot of years. It's just a different intention of quality and using it for product design.
Great. So, Diana, what would you say, or where rather would you say, is the most common quote unquote failure point in a concept phase that inevitably leads to expensive rework later? And how does your framework specifically plug that leak?
There was a project I had worked on that it was an iteration of something that already existed.
Hmm,
And it had brand recognition, so it was sort of like Kleenex for tissues. The way that it was used and how it looked had brand recognition. A lot of people recognized exactly what it was and what it was used for. And this new iteration of product was similar in use, but used somewhere else. This was a medical device, used
yeah.
somewhere else on the body. So it did need to be redesigned, revalidated. It wasn't a one-for-one replacement. And at that time, there's a lot of usability engineering consultancy groups. So they said, let's if we're redesigning it, let's do it. Let's give it to these engineers to design. Now the original design was a handheld trigger, and the engineering design for usability, they studied it, they did customer interviews. They looked at the environment, talked with physicians. They did all this work and came back with a really clever design. It was a little motor box with a foot pedal, and it would work really well. But the problem is, it wasn't a trigger. It was a completely different redesign, and it no longer had that brand recognition that the company wanted to maintain. So there was a big assumption there about what was wanted. Did the engineers deliver? Yes. It was a great usable product, very clever, but it didn't have that business requirement of the brand recognition. That wasn't communicated well, and it was missed. So it was just months of engineering work that was missed because of a big assumption. And that's what can happen with these reports. There's offsite meetings, and people talk with customers, and they create a report, which are necessary, and which other people should read. But within that report, there's still a lot of assumptions, and they don't really surface unless we work through um, the concept space together. That's when they start to surface. Hold on, we don't want to do it like that because we need brand recognition. Or our customers need to be able to handle it this way, not this other way. So just co working together with a broader group, the cross functional team, will start to surface some of those assumptions and avoid a lot of those headaches. It's having a conversation.
All right. For the solo developer or small startup that doesn't really have a large cross-functional team, so how can they apply the principles of your ADEPT framework to their own process.
Yeah, if they don't have access to marketing or sales, this is something that could be used with AI. You could create an
Mm,
AI agent that is a marketing expert in the field. So you would still need to do investigation as to put some boundaries on it. What's the area of expertise? What methods do they study for marketing and that kind of thing? So you could still do some queries with AIs like that. The other thing is, yeah, that's what I would say. Or even just working together. If you have a mechanical engineer and an electrical engineer working on the same team, and you have somebody in the test lab, that would also give you 3 different points of information about one problem. So you may still develop some of those, get rid of some of those assumptions and develop some of those concepts with people that you normally don't work with, but still who affect the design and know about it from a different viewpoint.
great. So, looking at the future of product design, especially with the rise of AI tools, so what is a new challenge or opportunity that you see emerging in how teams collaborate and create?
I think the opportunity is data insights. So even if you don't have a company that's large, if you do have a company that's large, you have customer data and information, and that can now be more readily available. Instead of trying to parse through an Excel file and draw some insights, we'll be able to use AI to understand the insights that might be coming from our customer data. So it'll be easier, faster, and we might gain some better insights from the data that we have. The same could be true for field data of our products, depending on what information that we're gathering, or competitor products. With medical devices, there's a mandatory reporting of all the other people's medical devices. So you can certainly use that information and be able to gain more insights about that, and that could affect your design decisions. So being able to look at mass amounts of data more easily and draw insights is a huge win. The other one is, like I had just mentioned, that we can create agents that mimic somebody. They might be more of an intern level, and I still don't think that they're a replacement for our actual teammate. So if I were working in a company and on a cross functional team and had a marketing manager on my team, I would still want to include them in the design and designing this new product and not replace them with an AI agent. But agents are another source of information that we can uh, get some ideas from. They may not always be the right ones, but it's another source of information where we can generate some ideas.
All right. So I have a personal question for you, Diana. If you could go back and give your younger self, the one who is just starting out in manufacturing, one piece of advice about leadership and collaboration, what would it be?
Good question. I would say my advice to my younger self would have been uh, to maintain my curiosity, uh,
Mm,
and to maintain that everybody has something they bring to the table for design. And anybody can design, and in fact, we all should design. But it still does take a talented team of people to make a product a reality. And it's not any one person that's going to do it. It takes a team of people to come up with the idea, to be able to design it, make it, manufacture, ship it. From idea to our customers' hands, it truly is a team activity. And that everybody brings a different special something to that activity. And just recognizing that and honoring that in the work that we do with our cross functional team.
great. I have to agree that's a great advice to give your younger self. So, in your work, which is all about creating clarity and alignment to turn ideas into reality, what does the word innovation truly mean to you?
I think it means coming up with maybe not the most inventive or out there idea,
Mm,
But it's about working with other people to come up with an idea that is new and unique, that maybe combines old things in a new way, or that uses something that already exists in one field and uses it for another. There's a story that I like about a chip manufacturer, potato chip manufacturer, and they wanted to have a crisper chip. And the problem they were having was that there was too much oil on the chip. So they put the problem out into the world, and they got the solution from a violin virtuoso, someone that plays the violin and knew all about harmonics and sound quality. And the idea was to, put the chips through some sound frequencies to shake the extra oil off the chip. So
mm.
I think that is what is most interesting about innovation, is linking those seemingly disparate fields with music and potato chip manufacturing and combining them to make things better or to make products that make people's lives easier.
Wow, that's a really interesting perspective you put the word innovation into. And that's quite a wonderful story connecting the potato chips with sounds and music and violin. So finally, Dana, so for our listeners who want to cut through the confusion and get a framework for their own designs, so where can they go to find you, find your resources, and generally maybe perhaps connect with you or even get your book, your newly released book, to get more insight about your strategies and frameworks?
You can visit the website piercethedesignfog.com, and that also links to my other business site. I'm also on Substack at Quality During Design, where I post a lot of newsletters. I have Ask Me Anything posts. You can interact with me there and learn more about me there too.
Fantastic. So it's been a really insightful conversation with you, and Diana, I'm excited to have you on the show today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on the show. And I enjoyed talking with you.